that the Romans started to burn the wall was turning toward them, and then eventually turns again and burning the wall. For those rebels and the families that were living here, it was like a sign from God that probably they will not win that battle. I don't think even that they ever thought they will win the battle. You can fight against the Roman Empire, but you do your best. And again, they said all the time, it's better to die free than to die slaves. And that's why they were ready for the death, and they were giving a good fight. I don't think, maybe in the beginning, God is with us, so we will win. And then it happened that not what you want happens, it's only what God wants. And eventually, they lost the battle. Very big numbers of our people died there. We don't know how much. There's estimation that go from 500,000 to 1 million. That's a lot of people. And we don't count what Josephus Flavius says about tens of thousands of people were sold as slaves. Imagine what was their life. If there were women or children, what happened to them? Men that were sent to work in mines and everywhere. Eventually, looks like the Jewish population that were free in the Roman Empire, those who did not participate in the war, bought the slaves to give them their freedom again. So Jewish slaves eventually stopped being slaves. I don't know how long it takes. We know that from here and there history. And but the population here was hit very hard. Having said that, 50 years later, there's another rebellion, and it's called the Bar Kokhba rebellion. From the archaeological findings, we find that it was even harsher for the Roman than the first rebellion. It had one chief, not in the first, the great revolt, the one that is depicted by Josephus Flavius, the one of 66. It had only one chief that was accepted as the Messiah, Bar Kokhba, Simon Bar Kokhba. So that means everybody this time joined the rebellion, not like in the first one. Sadly, we don't have a historian like Josephus Flavius to tell us that story. So we have a little bit of the Talmud, and we have archaeological excavation, and a little bit of the Roman archives. Roman mention how hard it was to them. We know also that some legions disappeared completely. That did not happen in the first rebellion, so it was very harsh. And the Romans punished the Jewish people much harder, not destroying only the temple, they razed Jerusalem to the ground and forbade the Jews. So that's the continuation, 50 years after that rebellion. Okay? So, returning to Herod, Herod had a magnificent palace overlooking the scenery, had air condition, the view, 3 levels, to a cut in the rock. Can you see how they look like? You remember that Herod is an Edomite. That means the people who built Petra are his people. So imagine where the architects are coming from, probably. So if there are Jews who are building here, they are the local force. But the architects, the designers, all the painters and others came from all over the Roman Empire, and some even from Petra, and built that magnificent palace at the north. See the 3 levels here? We are here in this building. This is a round balcony, another round, completely round hall, and a third one below. All of them in a mountain that was cut to fit. So the view is unobstructed. See there? Everyone has a view, everyone has the air condition. I think you will agree with me that if you could afford, you would want to live that way. I don't want air condition. The wind, the natural wind is amazing. Okay, so that's the northern palace. Let's now leave the place and we'll get to the western part. We'll talk a little bit about the rebellion. We are going to see the Roman camps and the ramp. Follow me.
Tito.
Yes.
The second rebellion.
Yes. Bar Kokhba rebellion, as we call it. Yes.
So was that when Hadrian came and destroyed everything?
That's exactly. That's the one that were crushed by Hadrian. The first rebellion, it was Vespasian. Then later his son Titus, who captured Jerusalem.
And so Hadrian conquered this place. Is
Yes.
he? Where did the damage come from?
Sorry.
Like the ruins?
Well, cities were destroyed. There was no the rebels of Barkova period were doing guerrilla.
Yeah.
That means so they were attacking the Romans, surprising them from holes, from cisterns, from channels, from tunnels, and they were having some success in the beginning until the Romans changed their tactics and moved to guerrilla themselves, divided into small units. That's how the Romans eventually adapted for the guerrilla warfare. That was not the case in the first rebellion. Josephus say how he was training his unit. Josephus was a leader of one of the, was a commander in one of the units at the rebellion before being taken as a prisoner.
Do you know when he was?
So Josephus say he was teaching his soldiers to march in lines like the Romans. That doesn't work for a small army. So the first rebellion was crushed really quite, I would say, quite easily beside the siege of Jerusalem that took 3 years for the Romans.
Do you remember where Josephus surrendered?
So Josephus surrendered in Yotvot, in Galilee.
And I don't remember this is correct for my history, but his whole garrison committed suicide and then he surrendered?
Actually, yes. That what we are talking about, the people killing themselves instead of surrendering, did not happen just in Masada. It happened everywhere. It happened everywhere. Josephus convinced his men to kill each other and managed to remain the last one with another guy, of course. And he convinced, he had the change of heart. He convinced the other one to surrender. And so they surrendered. So you can understand that the Jews of his time did not like him much. He surrendered, but he say in his books, remember he wrote the books, he say that it was for the good cause. He was trying to save the remainder of Israel and preventing them to go to a war that will exterminate the Jewish people. So he surrendered, and he was used by the Romans always sent ahead at any place before the siege, telling the people to surrender. Josephus even complains that one day somebody threw a stone at him and hit him hard from one of the walls. And he says, these people are so ungrateful. I'm trying to save their life and they throw stones at me. He cannot see the other side. The other side is looking at him like a traitor. He's one collaborating with the enemy. So of course they hate him. And he's looking at himself. He says, I'm trying to save their life. I tell them to surrender. You understand? Everyone has his point of view.
And if they surrendered, would they be treated as well as Josephus was?
So Josephus was very valuable. He was very valuable because he was well educated. So he mastered Greek. Of course, beside the Hebrew and the languages spoken here, Aramaic maybe, he mastered the Greek, maybe Latin, we don't know. And so he rendered so many services to the Roman that eventually they made him free and gave him even a big job.
He actually wrote in Greek, didn't he?
He wrote in Greek, yes. So, we're moving this way.
So Greek would have been kind of like the English of the day?
The Greek was common everywhere. Everywhere was Greek spoken. When you see the New Testament, there's some Aramaic spoken. That means that's the end of the Aramaic people speaking. Maybe the Jews are the last who are speaking Aramaic. Greek is becoming the vernacular. Everybody's speaking Greek. And it's not by accident that the New Testament is written also in Greek. It could have been easily written in Hebrew, but not. That was, you wanted to touch many people, write in Greek, not anymore Hebrew. So we are passing the cistern, you can see.
Lo stesso no? No, come andiamo?